Welcome back to LovexRomancexRevenge, the channel where love is dangerous, betrayal is inevitable, and revenge always has a price. If you enjoy enemies to lovers stories, forced marriages, and slow burn romance that hurts before it heals, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that will keep you up all night. Now, let's begin. I didn't notice the bracelet was gone until the car door shut and silence swallowed me whole. The gala had been a blur of champagne glasses, camera flashes, and forced smiles, another performance demanded by a world that fed on appearances. I sat stiffly in the back seat, heels kicked off, head leaning against the cool glass as the city lights streaked past. That was when my wrist felt wrong. My breath hitched. I lifted my arm slowly, dread creeping up my spine. The thin silver chain that had always circled my wrist, the one thing I never removed, was missing. "No," I whispered, panic flooding my chest. The driver glanced at me in the mirror. "Miss, turn back," I said sharply. "Now." But it was already too late. The bracelet wasn't just jewelry. It was my mother's, her last gift before she died. Engraved with our family crest. One of a kind. Losing it felt like losing her all over again. The Blackwood charity gala had already ended by the time we returned. Staff were clearing tables, waiters stacking chairs, the magic stripped away. I searched frantically, under tables near the bar, by the terrace where I'd escaped earlier to breathe. Nothing. And then I saw him. Adrian Blackwood. Immaculate. Infuriatingly calm. The man whose family empire had crushed mine in a ruthless corporate takeover 2 years ago. The man who had smiled politely while my father's company burned. My enemy in every sense of the word. Our eyes met across the empty ballroom. His gaze flicked, briefly, deliberately, to my bare wrist. My heart dropped. The news broke the next morning like a bomb. I stared at my phone, fingers trembling as images flooded every gossip site. Grainy photos of Adrian stepping into a private elevator, a woman's silhouette beside him. Me. My phone rang non-stop. My father. Board members. Concerned friends. No one asked if the rumors were true. They only asked what damage control looked like. Then another headline appeared. The picture was unmistakable. My bracelet. On his wrist. I confronted him that evening. Adrian's penthouse overlooked the city like a throne above the world. Everything about it screamed control. Glass walls, sharp lines, muted colors. He stood near the window, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, the bracelet gleaming mockingly against his skin. "You took it," I accused, fury shaking my voice. "I found it," he replied calmly. "Give it back." In time. I stepped closer, heat rising between us. "You're enjoying this." He turned then, dark eyes unreadable. "You lost something precious at my event. In my world that creates assumptions. You let them think we—" I couldn't even finish the sentence. "You didn't deny it either," he said softly. The truth stung because it was sharp. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, jaw tightening. "The board," he said. "They're concerned about reputational fallout." My stomach dropped. "So am I." He studied me for a long moment, then exhaled slowly, like a man preparing for war. "There's a solution," he said. I laughed bitterly. "Of course there is. And it benefits you. It protects both our families." I crossed my arms. "I'm not marrying you." His lips curved, not in amusement but something darker. "You might not have a choice." That was the moment I understood. The bracelet hadn't just gone missing. Had set a trap. And I had walked straight into it. I didn't leave Adrian Blackwood's penthouse that night. Not because I wanted to stay, but because every exit had quietly vanished. His phone kept vibrating, the screen lighting up with names that made my stomach twist. Board chairman. Legal counsel. Bar director. Every ring felt like a countdown. "This is insane," I snapped, pacing the marble floor. "You can shut this down with one statement." Adrian loosened his tie slowly, deliberately. No, I can't. Won't, I corrected. He finally looked at me then, his gaze sharp. If I deny it, the press digs deeper. If they dig deeper, they find your family's debt restructuring from last year. They find your father's fragile position. My chest tightened. You're threatening me. I'm warning you. Silence stretched between us, thick and dangerous. I hated that he was right. The rumor mill was ruthless, and women like me were never given the benefit of the doubt. By morning, my name would be dragged through headlines, my family shamed, my future decided by strangers. Adrian walked to the bar, poured 2 drinks, and handed one to me. I didn't take it. What do you want? I asked. He set the glass down untouched. A solution that ends this in 48 hours. And the price? He pulled a slim folder from the table and placed it between us. I stared at it. No, I said immediately. You haven't opened it. I don't need to. He slid it closer. The words on the cover blurred as my pulse roared in my ears. Marriage agreement. My laugh came out sharp, almost hysterical. You're out of your mind. 6 months, he said calmly. A public marriage. Joint appearances. Controlled narrative. I would rather burn my life down. You already are, he replied evenly. I lunged forward, slamming my hands on the table. You destroyed my father once. Now you want to own me too. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret maybe, but it vanished before I could be sure. I didn't plan this, he said quietly. But I won't let you be collateral damage. You're the one holding the match. He leaned closer, his voice low. And you're the one standing in the fire. I flipped the folder open. Every page was meticulous. No shared bedroom. No physical expectations. No heirs. An exit clause after 6 months. Clean, legal, final. Protection clauses for my family. Silence clauses for the press. Power balanced with precision. You thought of everything, I whispered. Except whether you'd forgive me. My throat burned. This isn't forgiveness. It's extortion. Call it survival. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my father. I answered with trembling fingers. His voice was tired. Afraid. They're asking questions. The banks. The board. What's happening? Closed my eyes. The room felt smaller. The walls closer. I'll fix it, I said. When I hung up, Adrian was watching me. Not like a victor, but like a man waiting for a verdict. Picked up the pen. I will never love you, I said. He nodded. I wouldn't trust it if you did. Sign. The sound of the pen against paper echoed like a gunshot. And just like that, my life stopped being mine. Adrian reached out. Not to touch me, but to retrieve the contract. Welcome to the war, he said softly. I met his gaze, anger blazing through the fear. If this is war, I replied, don't expect me to lose. The wedding was everything it needed to be. And nothing it should have been. White roses lined the aisle, imported from France. Crystal chandeliers glittered above us like indifferent stars. The guest list read like a who's who of power. Investors, politicians, media moguls, all gathered to witness what they believed was a fairy tale. They had no idea they were watching a ceasefire. I stood at the altar beside Adrian Blackwood, my hand resting in his like a promise I didn't mean. My dress was flawless, custom-made, fitted perfectly to a life I never chose. The veil brushed my shoulders, light as a lie. Smile, Adrian murmured under his breath, lips barely moving. I did. Cameras flashed. Applause swelled. Somewhere in the crowd, my father watched with relief heavy in his eyes. The narrative was already working. When the officiant asked if I took this man to be my husband, my heart pounded so loudly I was sure the microphones would catch it. I do, I said. Adrian's voice followed, calm and unwavering. I do. Just like that, the trap sealed shut. The reception blurred past me. Endless congratulations, forced laughter, champagne flutes clinking like chains. Adrian played his role perfectly. Attentive, composed, untouchable. His hand rested lightly at my back, never possessive, never warm. A performance for the world. But when his fingers brushed my wrist, where the bracelet belonged, I flinched. He noticed. His jaw tightened. That night, the penthouse felt different. Too quiet. Too intimate. Too final. The bedroom doors stood open, the massive bed dominating the space like a challenge. I stopped just inside the doorway, pulse racing. "There are 2 bedrooms," I said quickly. "Yes," Adrian replied, removing his cufflinks. "But tonight the staff expects otherwise." I spun to face him. "We agreed. No intimacy," he finished calmly. "I remember." He walked past me and opened a door down the hall. "That's yours. Lock it if it makes you feel safer." I hated that small, unexpected kindness more than cruelty. "You don't get points for decency," I said. He paused. "I'm not asking for them." I went to my room and closed the door, leaning against it as my breath finally gave out. My reflection stared back at me. Bride, wife, prisoner. I changed out of the dress slowly, carefully, like removing armor after a lost battle. Sleep didn't come. Sometime after midnight, thunder rolled across the city. The lights flickered once, then steadied. I heard footsteps outside my door, then stop. Silence stretched. Open the door. Adrian stood there, jacket gone, tie loosened, hair slightly undone. Lessio more man than I was prepared for. The city glowed behind him through the windows. "What do you want?" I asked. "To be clear," he said quietly. "This marriage is a shield. Nothing more. But the world will test it. And when it does, we stand together in public," he said, "and survive separately in private." I studied his face, searching for triumph. Found none. "Don't mistake this for trust," I said. "I won't," he replied. "But don't mistake it for indifference either." Something sharp twisted in my chest. I stepped back, letting the door fall shut between us. But even alone I could feel him, on the other side of the wall, in the same apartment, in the same life. Married to the man I hated. And terrified of how closely hatred was starting to resemble something else. The first crack appeared over coffee. I woke to the unfamiliar sound of movement in the kitchen. Quiet, deliberate. For a moment, panic flared in my chest, the reality of marriage slamming back into place. Then the smell reached me. Coffee. Real coffee. Strong. The way I liked it. I followed the scent down the hall, bare feet silent against the marble floor. Adrian stood at the counter, sleeves rolled up, tie discarded, hair still damp from the shower. He looked human. Dangerous still, but human. "There's a second machine," I said flatly. "You didn't have to use mine." He glanced over his shoulder. "Yours grinds the beans properly." I stopped short. "You noticed." "I notice things," he replied, pouring the coffee into 2 mugs. He slid one across the counter to me. I didn't take it immediately. "No poison?" I asked. "Not before noon." Against my will, a small breath of laughter escaped me. The crack widened. Days passed into a rhythm neither of us acknowledged. We shared elevators but not conversations. Dinners at opposite ends of the table. Board events where his hand hovered near my back, not touching unless the cameras demanded it. Until the first time he did something he didn't have to. It happened during a meeting. One of the executives leaned too close, his smile oily. "You're adjusting well to your new role, Mrs. Blackwood. Must be comforting to have such a powerful husband." Before I could respond, Adrian's voice cut through the room. Calm, lethal. "My wife doesn't require comfort," he said. "And she doesn't answer to you." The room froze. I stared at him, stunned. He didn't look at me, but his hand rested firmly on the back of my chair. That night, I found the bracelet on my dresser. Polished, prepared, the clasp fixed. My throat tightened. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, unreadable. "You left it on the counter this morning. You said you'd return it in time," I said quietly. "I didn't say when," he replied. "But it belongs to you." I picked it up carefully, like it might vanish again. When I fastened it around my wrist, his gaze lingered longer than necessary. "Thank you," I said. He nodded once and turned to leave. Before I could stop myself, I asked, "Why?" He paused. "Because it matters," he said simply. Then he was gone. The second crack appeared when I got sick. Fever hit suddenly. Violent, dizzying. I woke disoriented, the room spinning. Some point the door opened. "Hey," Adrian's voice said softly. "You're burning up." I tried to sit up. Failed. He didn't hesitate. His hand was cool against my forehead. His movements efficient but careful. He brought water, medicine, a blanket. Sat beside the bed longer than necessary. "You should call a doctor," I murmured. "I already did." I laughed weakly. "Of course you did." His expression darkened. "You don't take care of yourself." "I've always had to." "Not here," he said. "Not anymore." The words settled over me, heavy and unsettling. When I fell asleep again, his hand was still on mine. The third crack was the most dangerous of all. It came late one night, when the city was quiet and the walls felt too close. I found Adrian on the balcony, jacket pulled tight, staring out into the dark. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "Regret what?" "This marriage." He was silent for a long time. "Yes," he said finally. "And no." I leaned against the railing beside him. "That's not an answer. It is when both are true." The wind tugged at my hair. He reached out instinctively, tucking a strand behind my ear, then froze. Neither of us moved. His hand dropped. "I should go," he said. "Adrian," I said softly. He looked at me, then really looked. For the first time, I didn't see my enemy. I saw a man holding himself together through sheer will. And that scared me more than hatred ever had. Because armor doesn't crack unless something sharp enough gets close. And we were standing dangerously close. The first time Adrian kissed me, it wasn't planned. It happened in front of cameras. A charity dinner. Another staged appearance. Another lie we wore like silk. A reporter shouted, "Mr. and Mrs. Blackwood, how's married life?" Adrian's hand slid to my waist, firm, grounding. "Perfect," he said smoothly. Then he leaned in. His lips brushed mine, soft, brief, devastating. Applause followed. Cameras flashed. The moment passed. But my pulse didn't. "You didn't have to do that," I said later, once the car door shut and privacy returned. "I did," he replied evenly. "They were watching." "So was I snapped, hating the way my voice shook. He turned to me then, eyes dark. "It meant nothing." That was the lie. Because nothing doesn't leave you breathless. Jealousy came quietly. I didn't recognize it at first. Just irritation when a female executive laughed too hard at his jokes. A sharp twist in my chest when he stayed late at the office with someone else. Then came Lena Hart. Beautiful. Brilliant. Unapologetically close to Adrian. She brushed past him like she belonged there. She touched his arm when she spoke. She smiled at me like she knew something I didn't. "You two seem familiar," I said one night. "We dated," Adrian replied calmly. "Years ago." The floor shifted beneath my feet. "And now?" "And now we work together." I nodded like it didn't matter. Mattered. The lines blurred at home. Arguments stretched longer. Silences grew heavier. Tension hummed beneath every shared space. One night the power went out. We were alone in the living room, city lights gone, rain pounding against the windows. Candlelight softened the sharpness between us. "You're angry," Adrian said quietly. "You're lying," I shot back. His jaw tightened. "About what?" "About her. About us. About how easy this is for you." He stepped closer. "You think this is easy." Our breaths tangled. My heart slammed against my ribs. "This is pretend," I said. "You don't get to care." His voice dropped. "And you don't get to feel jealous." The truth hung between us. I didn't step away. Neither did he. For one suspended second, The world narrowed to heat and want and everything we weren't supposed to want. Then his phone buzzed. The spell shattered. The betrayal came the next morning. I found the truth by accident. An email left open on his tablet. Subject: contingency plan. The words burned. If the marriage fails, proceed with phase 2. Ensure her family remains protected, but unaware. Protected. Unaware. I scrolled, nausea rising. He had known from the beginning. The bracelet. The rumors. Timing. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to guide events instead of stopping them. When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. I was trying to control the damage, he said quietly. You were controlling me. I was protecting you. By lying to my face. My voice broke. By letting me fall into this. His silence was worse than any excuse. That kiss, I whispered. Was that damage control too? No, he said immediately. Then softer. That was a mistake. Something inside me shattered. Because mistakes don't feel like that. I stepped back, heart aching. You don't get to decide what I feel anymore. I never did, he replied hoarsely. I turned away before he could see how much he'd hurt me. Because the most dangerous thing about pretending. Eventually someone believes it. And I had. Packed in silence. Not because there was nothing to say, but because every word would have broken me. The penthouse felt unfamiliar now. Too large. Too empty. Every surface held a memory I hadn't asked for. The mug he always left by the sink, the throw blanket he draped over my shoulders when I fell asleep on the couch, the balcony where we almost confessed everything and didn't. I folded clothes mechanically, hands steady while my heart unraveled. Adrian was in the office. I knew because his light was on, because he always retreated into work when emotions got too close. Coward. I zipped the suitcase and stood there, staring at the door, waiting for something. Anything to stop me. Nothing did. He found me at the elevator. Where are you going? His voice was controlled, too controlled. Somewhere I can breathe. You can't just leave. I met his gaze. I already have. The elevator doors chimed softly behind me like a countdown. This marriage, he began, was never real, I finished. You made sure of that. His jaw clenched. I did what I thought was necessary. And I'm done paying the price. Silence swallowed us. Then he said the one thing I didn't expect. I love you. The word landed like a wound. Don't, I whispered. Don't say it now. His voice broke. I didn't mean to. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Love doesn't come with contingency plans, I said. Love doesn't hide in emails and half-truths. The elevator doors slid open. I stepped inside. Goodbye, Adrian. The doors closed between us. The airport smelled like endings. I watched planes take off and wondered which one would carry the pieces of me I'd left behind. I booked a one-way ticket without thinking, as if distance could erase feeling. Didn't. Every mile hurt. The world didn't stop spinning without me. The press exploded when news broke of our separation. Speculation ran wild. Stocks dipped. Boards panicked. Adrian stood alone at a press conference, shoulders squared, eyes hollow. This separation is my fault, he said. My wife deserves privacy and respect. He didn't correct them when they called me cold. He didn't defend himself when rumors painted him cruel. He took it all. From me. I watched from a hotel room thousands of miles away. My phone buzzed once. Adrian, I've terminated phase 2. Your family is secure. Always. Closed my eyes. The cost of walking away was clearer now. He had given up control. And I had given up him. Nights were the worst. I replayed moments I had dismissed, gestures I had misunderstood, love I hadn't allowed myself to name. I wore the bracelet again. Not because it reminded me of him, but because it reminded me of who I was before everything went wrong. And who I still needed to be. Weeks later, I received a message from an unknown number. You were never meant to leave. He was never meant to let you go. Attached was a document. The truth. The mastermind behind the bracelet. The manipulation that forced our marriage. The reason Adrian had tried, badly, to control the fallout instead of stopping it outright. He hadn't been the villain. He'd been a shield. And I had walked away from him bleeding. I stared at the message, heart pounding. Some goodbyes weren't meant to last. And some love stories didn't end when you left, they waited. I flew back without telling him. Some truths didn't belong in messages. Some apologies needed eye contact. And some love demanded courage I hadn't had before. The city looked the same when I landed. Steel and glass, ambition humming beneath the surface. But I was different. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't pretending. I went straight to the press conference. Adrian stood at the podium, shoulders squared, eyes shadowed by exhaustion. He looked thinner, older, like a man who had carried a war alone. "This will be my final statement," he said calmly. "The separation was my responsibility. Any damage to Blackwood Industries rests with me." Murmurs rippled through the room. Then I stepped forward. Gasps erupted. Cameras swung toward me like weapons. "I disagree," I said clearly. "The responsibility is shared." Adrian froze. He turned slowly, disbelief flickering across his face before something fragile, hope, dared to surface. "I left because I thought love was another form of control," I continued. "I was wrong. Love is choice. And I'm choosing to stay." The room went silent. I walked to his side, my hand finding his. This time no cameras forced it. No contracts demanded it. "This marriage wasn't built on lies alone," I said. "It was built on protection, sacrifice, and mistakes we're brave enough to own." Adrian's voice was unsteady. "You don't owe me this." "I know," I replied softly. "That's why it matters." The truth came out within days. The mastermind behind the bracelet was exposed, a rival determined to destroy both our families. Evidence surfaced. Apologies followed. Consequences were swift. For the first time there were no shadows between us. Just honesty. Our real vows happened quietly. No press. No spectacle. No fear. On the balcony where we once stood on opposite sides of doubt, Adrian took my hands. "I won't protect you by lying again," he said. "I won't love you from behind armor. I won't run when things get hard," I replied. "I won't confuse control with care." He slid the bracelet back onto my wrist himself, fingers trembling. "This time," he said, "it stays." I smiled through tears. So do I. Love didn't arrive like a miracle. It grew, slow, deliberate, unforced. We argued. We healed. We learned each other without contracts or contingency plans. And when someone once asked if fate had played a cruel joke on us, I finally knew the answer. "No," I said. "Fate tested us. Because sometimes love isn't found. It's rebuilt. After the fall. After the fear. After the choice to stay. Came back for him. Not because I was brave. Because regret is louder than fear." The city greeted me with rain and headlines. Blackwood Industries in free fall. Joe takes full blame in shock resignation. My hands shook as I read. Adrian had fallen on his sword. For me. I went straight to the penthouse. The doorman hesitated when he saw me. His eyes said what his mouth couldn't. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The elevator ride felt endless. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No lights, no city glow. Just shadows and the faint smell of coffee gone cold. "Adrian!" called. Silence answered. Then I saw it. The bracelet lay on the table. Polished, prepared, waiting. Beside it, an envelope with my name written in his careful hand. I opened it with trembling fingers. I always knew this love would cost me everything. I just didn't know it would cost me you. I made mistakes trying to protect you instead of trusting you. I hope one day you forgive me, even if I'm not there to see it. Don't carry my guilt. Life, love, be free. The letter slipped from my grasp. "No," I whispered. They found him on the balcony. The same place where we almost confessed everything. The same railing where he once promised protection instead of truth. The city had kept moving. Fate always does. The truth came out too late. The mastermind exposed. The manipulation revealed. Adrian's name cleared. Posthumously. They called him a hero. They called him tragic. They never called him loved. I wore black at the funeral. No press. No speeches. Just me and the weight of everything unsaid. I slipped the bracelet onto my wrist and felt it burn like a brand. They said time heals. They lied. Time only teaches you how to live with the echo of a voice you'll never hear again. Years later, someone asked why I never remarried. I smiled politely. Because I already loved my once-in-a-lifetime, I said. And I arrived one day too late. The bracelet still circles my wrist. Not as a symbol of fate's joke, but as proof that sometimes love doesn't fail. Timing does.